This week on the show, Battleship takes on water, a TV pioneer dies, and my experience juicing on video. All that and more on this episode of Behind the Video.
This episode of Behind the Video is brought to you by the Independent Media Network. The Independent Media Network helps journalists and content creators create their own jobs by building sustainable online businesses. If you're an unemployed or underemployed journalist or content creator, visit imnct.com for more information. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Video. This is episode number 4, marking our first month on the interwebs. Tim, that's a great thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like we're getting used to Google Hangouts.
It is, until they change them again. So
almost.
So Tim Street is our lovely and talented co-host, and we're also joined by somebody who's even more lovely and talented, and that is Goldie Chan. Hello, Goldie. Welcome back.
Hey.
So we want to talk about juicing for a minute because I was following your juicing exploits on YouTube. It looks like you've had an experience that resulted in a lack of or a loss of mental capacity and starvation. So we wanted to hear your whole experience here. So let us know what happened.
Sure. So I actually was not at our last hangout because I was on a 3-day juice cleanse for joyous.com. And basically what you do is you drink 6 juices and you can't have any solid food. And a couple days before that, you can't have meat and you can't have meat or coffee or carbs or all the other things that I love in life. But it's supposed to detox your body, and so they said that you might feel a little tired going through the juice cleanse. I documented each day, and what I found was, day 1 I was definitely what they said, a little tired, and I was totally able to handle that. Day 2, I felt like I was taking crazy pills. And I just got really hyper, but I couldn't focus on anything. And then day 3, it just felt like a very bad hangover. It just felt like I had been drinking the night before, and there's just no good to come of that day.
So the health effects were not there for you.
You know what? I lost 3 pounds. So for all the women out there who might watch this, I lost 3 pounds. Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I think your video was enough to tell me that juicing is not for me. But I appreciate you putting yourself through that for all of us. So and you can check it out on Goldie's Google Plus page. She's got a great rundown where she just stops talking by the 3rd day. But you can still write. It looks like so. Yeah. No. I did a very angsty. I did a very angsty little placard only video on the 3rd day. It was pretty great. The 3rd day was really interesting.
And Tim, you were recently in Boston for another video conference, and I have to say you're quite the trooper for flying out to the East Coast, back to the West Coast, and then back to Boston again, and then of course you got stuck in Boston traffic. So tell us what you were doing out there besides getting really tired.
Yeah, Boston was great. I was there for the Cable Show, which is a cable conference that folks do, where the cable MSOs, folks like Comcast, Charter, Time Warner Cable, they get together with all the programmers, so Disney Channel, ESPN, those types of programming networks, and they buy and sell programming. So that's what takes place there. They have different carriage agreements that last for multiple years, and then they meet and talk about renegotiations and different things that they want as things change. And then there's also a technology side to it as well, where it looks like the whole industry now is going to IP-based cable delivery, which will really open up things for new fun ways, new fun programming. One of the demos that I saw while I was there was by a company that I think is in the process of getting bought by Cisco. I think it's called NDS, and they have this technology demo that they did where you're watching a program, a movie, full screen, and you're controlling your TV with your iPad, and then you can shrink the size of the movie and find out more information. You can have a webcam on your baby to see if the baby's crying or see who's at the front door. You can, see your Twitter stream so that you can interact with folks while you're watching live programming. But it's all built into one screen, and they built it out. It's not in market yet. It was just a demo, but they built it out for 4K programming, which is really cool. So I thought that was the neatest thing that I saw there. And then I also got to hang out with our good buddy Steve Garfield of stevegarfield.com, the first video blogger ever. And I walked around the trade show floor with him, and it was kind of like hanging out with a geek rock star. All the folks at Comcast were fawning over him and talking about the new devices that they were going to send his way. And he was tweeting and taking photos of stuff going on at Comcast. So it's quite interesting. Steve's one of those guys where he'll get to try out technology early, and then he'll give them feedback on it, and sometimes they change the technology based on Steve's feedback. So it was kind of fun to hear him talk to folks. And then getting back to LA last night, it was a late flight, but once I got here, the freeways were closed, so it was a long drive home.
Insult to injury, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's neat to hear that about Steve Garfield, because when you look at a company as big as Comcast, to be giving him or asking him for so much input as an independent content producer, that's encouraging. That there's some foot in the door there with a really large audience, right?
Yeah, Steve's one of those tastemakers. He's somebody that people they go to get his opinion, because he is on the cutting edge when it comes to video technology. And he has a book out if you're interested in doing video yourself. It's called Get Seen.
Well, to check that out, Get Seen. We'll throw that into our show notes when we get our website launched pretty soon. So I had a fun adventure. I went down as I don't know if Goldie knows, but Tim knows, I've got a bit of a space addiction, and I write for a site here in Connecticut called cttechjunkie.com. So we went down for the launch of the SpaceX rocket, and unfortunately, while I was down there, it didn't actually launch. It lit up, it did the whole thing, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So I had to go home, and we woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go see it. But what are you going to do? It's rocket science. So it was a fun trip. So I am back. We had somebody down there who got some images, and you can check it out at cttechjunkie.com to learn all about the changing space program. So we want to move into our top charts now, and we had quite a bit of box office news, it's topping the chart still is The Avengers, so that's no surprise. But we'll work our way up from number 5. What to expect when you're expecting is number 5. Have any of you seen this or know about this film?
Yeah, it was. I was just dying to see it, but I got caught in traffic on my way there and missed it.
So Goldie, is this a guide to pregnancy, or is this more of a comedy that we should be talking about?
You know what? I haven't seen it, so once again, I feel bad being the girl that I haven't seen the girl film. But to me, it looks like they're trying to gear it towards couples. So I think it's actually supposed to be sort of a guy comedy. They're focusing on both how crazy women get when they're pregnant, and then also about guys and how they cope with having all the kids and taking care of the kids. And I think they have a secret bro club, so it documents part of the secret, we have babies and we walk them in the park bro club.
Interesting. Well, that's another movie I'll have to avoid getting dragged out to. Thanks for the warning. Number 4 is Dark Shadows, and that's based on a kind of a cult television series that had aired before. Tim, do you have anything to add on Dark Shadows?
Yeah, it's a must rent. Definitely.
Must rent.
Yes.
Okay, so not must see, but must rent.
Yeah,
so.
Must rent. It's good fun. It's the movie that Haunted Mansion should have been.
Number 3 is The Dictator. I am dying to see this movie because I love Sacha Baron Cohen. I think he's an absolute fearless genius. And I don't know how you two feel about him, but I have to see this film. I don't know if either one of you have seen it, but he has done, and especially in talking about web video, when he got kicked out of the Oscars, the video he did is like his official statement from his palace about the Academy is a must-see, and he's a quintessential marketer. Tim, have you seen The Dictator yet?
No, but it is in my future.
Excellent. And Goldie, who doesn't go to the movies, I'm sure you haven't seen it yet either, right?
I haven't seen it, but I actually really do want to watch that one.
So our number 2 film is actually a film that many are saying might lead to the demise of a movie studio, or at least cost them a couple $100 million. Battleship, which everyone now is calling a bomb. So the battleship got bombs. You sank my battleship, whatever thing you want to apply to it. As a Comcast unit produced the film. It was from Universal Pictures. And the film is in the number 2 spot, but its opening weekend was only $25.5 million. And I believe the film cost as much as $200 million to produce. Tim, what's going to happen here?
It's a sad day when you make $25 million and you're considered a failure.
Right. Now, Goldie, you produce web videos. $25 million would probably be a good figure to get, right?
Yeah, I think it would be really good, but yeah, I think it did cost $250 million to make, so if you just want to do some basic math there, if you knock off a 0, that's how much they made in the box office. Not really the numbers that you want to see.
It isn't. And you know what's funny about this film is this is something where, Tim called Dark Shadows a must-rent. This one, for me, was a must-rent. I've got these movies when, my wife goes away for the weekend or something. I go get some sci-fi movies and pop them in the Blu-ray player. I'm all about seeing this, just not in the theater. I mean, was the theater the wrong place to start this film, Tim? I mean, should we start thinking about finding a more niche distribution?
It's a disconnect. When you think about a board game becoming a motion picture, it's like what really is the brand equity there? I mean, it's one thing when it's Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, the brand of Pirates of the Caribbean is silly, fun adventure, and taking you to a romantic place in your mind. And so I think Disney with that one did such a great job with Gore Verbinski directing the first 2 films, really, making that brand come to life. Whereas Battleship, I didn't get the sense from any of the trailers that it had anything to do with the board game extension of a brand.
That's what I thought, too, because I'm watching this thing in Battleship. What are they going to have 2 people sitting with pegs and blowing up ships or something? I guess there's like an alien invasion thing going on and stuff that's not in the board game.
Right.
So,
and there's Rihanna, who plays, I think, a lieutenant. I could be wrong. There's actually a hilarious article that tracks her dialogue. So it gives all, I think, 50 lines that she says in sequential order, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Oh, nice.
So it looks as though this is definitely on its way to a bomb. I will pledge to you all right now that as soon as it lands on Netflix, I will make sure I rent it. So, and related to this,
in the industry, they're saying it's no John Carter, but it's still a bomb.
Right, and it's a sad state perhaps of some sci-fi movies. I mean, Prometheus will probably do great when it opens. I'm looking forward to that one also, mainly because it's an established series. But a lot of these junk food sci-fi movies, I mean, they're trying to reproduce the Transformers formula, but they're not getting there yet. Maybe Battleship was kind of a stretch to make there. Maybe it almost seems like they just attached a brand name to it, hoping that maybe that would give it some more marketability, right?
Well, they also are doing a few other ones are in development. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, right? There's Candyland, and there's, I think, 3 other ones right now besides that are in development.
Yeah, I want to see Operation.
Yeah, that would be fun to watch.
Or Mystery Date. Mystery Date would be great. That'd be a fun one, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Is he a dream or dud? Ooh.
And every romantic comedy could be called The Game of Life. So we can make it happen there. Now another brand from, I think it's also from Hasbro, is G.I. Joe. And I don't know about you guys, I couldn't stand the first one, but apparently they're pushing off G.I. Joe Retaliation to March 29th, 2013, because they want to make it 3D, add some gimmicks to it for the international audience. When I was a kid, G.I. Joe was like, next to like Robotech, that was what we played with. I had a friend that had the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. We used to spend a lot of time at his house and stuff. But the movies just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, it was G.I. Joe invading Barbie's dollhouse.
Right. There's a lot more value to storming your sister's toy collection than watching it on the big screen. So that's where the movies are at.
Star Wars.
That's right. I almost forgot to mention. How could I forget about this? Because the top tier of toys when I was a kid was Star Wars, the multi-billion-dollar franchise that launched merchandising as we know it, is turning 35 years ago tomorrow, Friday. So by the time this show is posted, the 35-year mark will pass. I think I'll have to just mark the occasion by walking around town in a robe and a lightsaber. I don't know what you guys are planning.
I think you should video blog that, Lon.
Maybe I should. That might actually help my view count. Goldie, what are you going to do?
Definitely a double-ended lightsaber. I think that's it's fashion forward.
There you go.
So you lean more to the Sith side of the Force, it seems.
Of course.
Excellent.
Of course.
You still want to see that.
So we could have tremendously. I bet you if you were juicing for a little bit longer, you might actually have done it.
You know what? I think I would have been in a delirious enough state to actually do that. Yeah.
Well, we'll watch your channel for that, and perhaps maybe my lightsaber will not make an appearance. Let's move on to broadcast shows. And by the way, we've got to thank our producer Jason Perrier for putting all this stuff together. We're all busy people. Goldie was so busy she was actually working last week when we had to get the show done. So we really thank him for helping us get the show prepared each week. Number 10 is Person of Interest. The Mentalist came in at number 9, and then the reality shows hit. Dancing with the Stars Results is number 8. CBS Sunday Movie Specials was number 7, and I didn't get a chance to see exactly what special that was. Did you see that at all?
No, missed it.
We'll have to look for that one.
I didn't flying to Boston.
It's funny. I got rid of a lot of my cable stuff, so I don't really watch that much television anymore. And here I am talking about it. Criminal Minds number 6. NCIS again led the top 5 and top 1 spot. Los Angeles, NCIS Los Angeles was number 5. Number 1 was NCIS, and then of course in the middle between 5 and 1, Dancing with the Stars and both American Idols. Amazing how some of these shows that have been on for a while still dominate the ratings. Pretty cool. Anything on TV you guys are looking forward to this week?
Tim. I'm going to throw that over. I'm going to punt that one.
We're going to punt. Both of us are going to punt that to Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. TV just doesn't hold the draw that it used to. I mean, for me, it's definitely on Sunday getting Game of Thrones, seeing the new episode of that, and
yes. I will totally agree with that.
Yeah. I probably the only show that I make sure I watch every week. I don't watch it right when it comes out, but I watch it on HBO Go on my iPad. Is Game of Thrones, and it's getting so good. I love that show. I got to get
into this. I have not seen. I have so much that I have to catch up on. So I am going to get into the Game of Thrones, and I'm sure I will like it. So talking about cable, I had to actually run a top 20 list for our show notes today because the NBA dominated the top 10 spots. TNT and ESPN split all that traffic up. The Lakers in Oklahoma City, Boston and Philadelphia. So when we get down to number 11, Sports Entertainment, WWE, the wrestling guys, they're still doing quite well.
On USA.
On USA. Number 12 on the History Channel was Swamp People. And I think one of the Swamp People died or something, or did I have my shows mixed up?
One of the lead, I think, Swamp People died actually. So
Did he get eaten by alligator or Bigfoot?
I'm not sure. Probably a combination of both, Tim.
Or it could have been unhealthy eating,
Could have been something like that. Maybe he
probably wasn't getting enough exercise. Exercise is an important part of everyone's daily activities.
There you go, couch potatoes.
And that is your public service announcement for those of you sitting in front of the 3 of you sitting in front of your computer watching us right now. But what I found interesting once there was a network called the Nashville Network, and I'm not sure what they merged into, but they used to have this swamp buggy racing on the weekends.
Yeah, they became Spike TV.
Oh, is that what they became? I didn't realize that was the Nashville Network. So
yeah.
They had this one guy. So the rest of them were all safety geared and all this other stuff. And then there was the old-timer guy who had like the jury-rigged swamp buggy with no roll cage. He had like this helmet that did nothing on his head, and he was like the badass guy. It was really fun to watch that. So number 19 and 20 on the list after after Game of Thrones at number 15. Tori Goes Platinum on Nickelodeon, some NASCAR, and more NBA was the Axemen on the History Channel, and I believe those are the guys that cut trees down, right?
I think so.
And it's just odd to me that history is getting to be so popular with shows that really, I mean, is there a history of swamp people that we're just not aware of?
Yes, you're not aware of it.
Maybe I need to watch it now so I can learn more about the history.
They just got tired of people calling them the Hitler channel. So.
They switched to that.
Seriously, that was like an industry insider's phrase.
Really? So it was just too much old war footage, and they had to diversify.
Yep.
So
Yep.
They were like, what makes the most sense? Swamp people.
Yeah, swamp
Swamp
people, or blowing up the same Battleship. Well, wait, we already talked about
We
that.
talked about blowing up.
Maybe we should talk about Hulu.
Let's talk about Hulu. So Hulu seems more like a shuffle for me. Glee is still leading it off. New Girl is starting to fall in the ratings, and I wonder if that is indicative of its television ratings also. Family Guy number 2, House MD number 3, Community number 4. Community's interesting because there's been some controversy, at least related to the staff on that show, Tim, right?
Yeah, you never can tell what the truth is behind all these Hollywood rumors, so I take it with a grain of salt.
But what's interesting is Community's kind of struggled on air, but has been doing quite well online, which is becoming a new dynamic here. Maybe some shows that might get the network acts on television might want to think about.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if, as Hulu and Netflix get into this original programming, if they wind up picking up programs that get the boot from the network, which, Arrested Development is one, but it'll be interesting to see if they take a one that's fairly hot and already has a built-in community, the way that YouTube has a community.
I hope they do, because every show that I've watched on television and gotten into has been canceled, every single one. So maybe I'm just not like the others, but it's just unfortunate. I would love to see, I don't know if you all remember Jericho, huge cult following. I love that show, and it was like going into such a great direction. I think they made the mistake of kind of dragging that first season out for so long. Perhaps it's these 24-episode orders that really kill a show. That there's a lot of dead air you got to fill. So, but it was intriguing. So let's look at some of those YouTube community folks right now. Number 1, actually I actually want to start at number 7, because number 7 and number 2 on our YouTube list have a lot in common. So number 7 is, and I would love to show this, but we would immediately lose our revenue potential because of YouTube's very aggressive copyright policy. Will Smith on BBC TV performs the Fresh Prince rap along with the British audience, and I thought it was hysterical. So
yeah, that's a real audience pleaser for sure to see him doing that. It's great.
And it was good timing, because number 2 on the YouTube list this week with 7.1 million views was Will Smith actually backhand slapping a reporter who apparently tried to kiss him.
You feel pretty bad for him, though, because it looks like this guy gets pretty aggressive, and this reporter's stick is to kiss celebrities. So he goes up. It
kind of looked like Sacha Baron Cohen too, doing Bruno.
Yeah. It didn't look like he hit him all that hard, right?
No.
No.
Yeah. But Will Smith
it was a soft backhand.
So you can see two sides of Will Smith, the upset one and the fun one. So that was interesting. Nicki Minaj? I'm so uncultured here, so I don't even know who this person is. But Nicki Minaj, right by my side, featuring unfortunately Chris Brown at 13 million views this week. So again, another music video leading the charge. Tim, I guess marketing does, the big record label marketing does still help drive online views, right?
Well, it's not just about the record label marketing as much as it is, people are engaged with a brand. If there's an artist that they like, they're going to tune in and see what the new thing is. So that star power always is a great way to get views.
And Nicki Minaj is such an interesting brand because she is actually migrated. She's a rapper. She's a female rapper who's kind of migrated into high fashion. So she's on all these high fashion magazines, which is kind of odd. So she has this actually older woman audience too that she brings to the table, which I find really interesting.
That's fascinating. So that's a neat convergence there, isn't it? So
did you see the Smosh one? Number 4?
Yes, I did see that, where he sucks at draw something. This is one of these guys. There's him and that, was it Ray Williams, Charles, somebody? There's a guy that's like always got his stuff in the top 10.
Ray William Johnson.
Yeah, Ray William Johnson. So Smosh did this thing about kind of a little vignette of how he sucks at draw something, and everything he draws becomes reality with his buddy in the room there, and it's a clever little thing. So what's his secret, Tim?
Well, again, those guys know how to engage an audience of young adults and teenagers, and they're just goofy doing stuff that you can't do on television.
And Goldie, is there a different strategy for engaging different audiences? Smosh is clearly going after the teenage, circuit. What's some of the tips you could give us for finding a way to engage your audience on YouTube?
Well, first of all, figure out what your audience should be. I mean, I think I think a lot of people do a kind of hit or miss thing, and so you end up making really generalized content that might not actually hit anything. But also know that the YouTube audience actually runs a little younger. So doing something for the 65-plus audience might not get you the kind of views that gearing towards, males from 15 to 19 would do.
Right, and maybe there's different levels of attention to that engagement too along the way.
Yes, and we all have. I was actually just speaking with somebody who does a lot of mommy and kid programming, and so she was saying we all just have really short attention spans these days, and I completely agree with that.
What? Oh, sorry, I got distracted. Moving on to ebooks, not much has changed in the ebooks. We're still seeing, as Tim pointed out last week, that people like to read the 50 Shades of Grey on their Kindle, so it doesn't look like they're reading porn on an airplane. And I found, I was on a plane, by the way, and I did not have the book out myself because I haven't read it, nor will I, but there was someone who had the actual printed book on the plane, proudly showing it.
Yeah, I guess, if it's top of the charts now, it's okay, it's acceptable, right?
Right, exactly.
It's not that smutty.
It's not that smutty. How could it be at the top 5? So one thing on the iTunes charts this week that did move up, and it's great. Well, it's funny how movies are driving the book readership here, but The Great Gatsby, which is a new film coming out, I believe, very shortly, if not out already, because I'm totally uncultured. Top 5 book is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, so a classic working its way up the ebook ladder on the iTunes store this week. Kindle really unchanged. I think the only new one I see here is The Marriage Bargain, How to Marriage to a Billionaire by Jennifer Probst, and Mystery Walk by Robert McCannon at number 9, but the rest of the books are the 50 Shades of Grey occupying 4 spots, because you got the 3 books separately, and then you've got the trilogy, so you can buy one or the other, or a combination thereof. And the Hunger Games still running the charts up there as well. So quite a interesting week in books, perhaps. And we've got time for a couple of news stories, and I know we all upload stuff to YouTube constantly, and apparently there is now 72 hours of video a minute going up to YouTube. Incredible. And it makes it really hard for your stuff to get seen because there's 72 hours a minute of video going up to YouTube.
It's a good thing somebody's screening it all before it gets approved, right?
Absolutely. The robot that takes down my great content because I'm using stock music that I have the rights to. But I'm not bitter. So, Goldie, what do we do? Is this search? I mean, how do we get our stuff seen? Is it a matter of getting the right keywords in the description? How do we rise here? Even good quality stuff isn't getting seen.
Well, I think that, it's easier if you already have an audience, so that's saying put the chicken before the egg. But I really think that the next wave and what we're going to see in content is it's kind of like what the Smush guys do, It's really short content that is entertaining, really simple, so you can go, okay, this is about draw something. I got it. It doesn't really take a lot of excessive brain power to really think about, what it is. Just like, oh, this is the new Nicki Minaj featuring Chris Brown music video. I got it, So keeping things simple and short, I think is very important.
So focus on those short attention spans, definitely. And Tim, YouTube is the powerhouse, bigger than Facebook. There's a lot of other video hosting companies out there. Blip.tv is a great one that I like, but it almost feels like if you're not on YouTube, you're missing a ton of traffic. So, are they going to become the new TV network?
Well, I think TV's changing the same way that radio changed. In the 1940s and 50s, there were dramas and comedies on the radio. Those types of formats don't really exist on radio anymore, and I think we're going to see a transition to the internet, and it's not necessarily going to be linear programming like we've been used to seeing on television. So new types, definitely short form programming is big, and the early days of movies, short form programming was really big. I don't think we yet have a internet celebrity that is the Howdy Doody of the internet or the Uncle Milty of the internet, but it's coming. Somebody's going to have a breakthrough, must-see show on the internet that will be a different type format that we haven't thought of yet.
And that might be why everyone is scrambling now to start buying up some of these independent properties that are doing well, to try to hoping that maybe one of those will catch fire and become that next Howdy Doody. So maybe I should get into claymation. I'll try that. I'll try that one next. So.
Well, I think what's really interesting is some of the independent creators are actually now, some of the more popular ones are getting together and they're making their own channels. So a bunch of fashion people I know are getting together and they have their own fashion channel, and they release kind of exclusive content for that particular channel.
So there's to some degree of niche networks forming here around different interest areas and communities. That could be helpful. So maybe some of our listeners will get together and produce some good content. It makes life a lot easier when you have people to help, right?
For sure.
For sure. So our last story today is a sad one, and one that we have to report because it was such an important part of developing couch potatoes and rooms that allow for consumption of video. And that is Eugene Polly, who invented the television remote, dies at 96. So he's lived through the entire TV revolution that he helped to start. Apparently his first device was called the Flashmatic, and it was more about shooting out commercials, much like the Dish Network DVR we talked about last week. But it really started a whole new way of looking at things and designing rooms around television sets where you didn't have to get up. And now my TV has no buttons on it at all. So Goldie, how has the remote control changed your life?
Well, I remember when I was little, I always had a problem because we would have little game controllers all over the room too. And when I was really little, I was very confused by, where is this the game controller? Is this the TV remote? I don't know. What's going on?
I remember having to fine-tune the television, and the remote control wouldn't do the fine-tuning, which was really annoying. I don't know, Tim, did you ever have a non-remote control television?
Yeah, we did, and then when we got one that had a remote control, it had two buttons. It had up and down, so you could change the channel up or you could change the channel down, and it was called a clicker. It wasn't called a remote because it clicked, and the clicking noise that it made was kind of a metal sound. In fact, my parents owned a restaurant, and sometimes to get out of the restaurant at night and get home, they would, just take the money out of the cash register and bring it home and then count the receipts while they were in bed watching TV. And sometimes if they had silver coins in the change that they were counting, that would actually change the channel on the television set.
My grandfather actually had one of those televisions too. It was a audio sound that it made versus like an infrared thing that we're used to now, and I remember that too. You could sometimes trip the television. He had a clapper too, and sometimes you could turn the lights off just by talking. So,
but before we had that, I was the remote.
That's right. Get up.
Go change the channel, Timmy.
Right.
Yep, I definitely do remember we had tin foil on the antenna of one of our small TVs. So we definitely were one of those houses.
I once had to be the antenna because
this guy died, but it does seem kind of ironic in the fact that it looks like the TV remote is going the way of the iPhone and the iPad as well.
It's very true. Going from buttons to glass surfaces, and we're certainly transitioning into the future. So, and we'll have to transition into the future now because we are out of time for this edition of Behind the Video. Goldie, where can people find you and all of your great work?
So I just relaunched my beautifully 3-videoed YouTube channel. So you can find me at goldiechannel.com, Goldie Channel off of YouTube, and you can always find me at Twitter at GoldieChan.
And go there before you juice, because it's a really important public service. And Tim, where can people Google you?
Just Google me. That's it.
That's it. The one, the only Tim Street.
There you go.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Behind the Video. We are a wrap.
Stories for this episode were compiled by producer Jason Perrier. Follow him on Twitter at JASONPERRIER. Behind the Video is a production of Ape Digital Incorporated and the Independent Media Network, LLC. All rights reserved.